Welcome back to the bullpen where me and Little Chad are going to discuss some politics. I'd like to start off by thanking Zax for the raid from last night to this morning. I think a few people actually did click on some things last night, so thank you, sir. How are you this morning, Little Chad?
I am good. We killed some zombies last night, so I'm feeling pretty pepped up, ready to go.
Yeah, I'm exactly the opposite. We we killed zombies last night. I tried to go to bed, went to bed about 2 o'clock, and then my daughters got back from their trip to Texas for Thanksgiving at about 4 a.m. So the whole house went nuts when they opened the door and the dogs all, started barking and alerting us that somebody opened the front door. So went to bed at 2, was back up at 4, and then tried to go back to sleep for a few hours, but I'm running on fumes and coffee.
You
But
sound like somebody at the FBI on the seventh floor running that shredder. Shredder go
yeah,
burr ahead of appointments.
yep, they are definitely freaking out over at the FBI, and we can probably just start there because that was what the thumbnail was, and the name of the episode is Cashing In. So
I
we can officially announce that once Trump fires the head of the FBI, he is planning on putting Kash Patel in to
That is
that
my favorite
position.
response. Was Brian Stelter, potato over there?
Yeah,
Was his he tweeted out, X'd out. What do we call it now? Tweet. I'm
I
gonna still
I
call it a
still
tweet.
yeah.
Anyway, so he tweeted like Christopher Wray still has 3 years on his 10-year term. He'd have to resign or be fired. And I'd be like, Brian, I'm pretty sure we know what's going to happen when the new incoming president says, I've got a guy I want to be my FBI director.
Yeah, it's a signal. Believe it or not, he's going to fire him because there's not a chance in hell Ray keeps that job.
No, and if the question I would have is, depending on the way pension rules work, I've never upper echelon people who serve at the pleasure of the presidency are a whole different animal, but they still get access to the federal pension system.
Right.
Super interesting. So I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
Ray's probably qualified. By the way, the best response are all the people like McCabe and all the rest, like going like
Bill Barr.
yeah, Patel's unqualified to be the head of the FBI when his resume is exactly the same as Mueller's was, exactly the same as Louis Freeh's was, exactly the same as Christopher Wray's was.
Well, let's see if we can bring up Kash Patel's background, at least in a size that can actually be read, because I'm not sure that it's going to allow me to blow it up, but we'll see what we can do here. Yeah, that's not going to be big enough, but
That's
so
super
he's,
tiny.
I know, but
You
it's
you
as big
you
as it's
broke
going to
my
let me
eyes.
go. Yep.
I think Pasobic put a summary of what is of his stuff, and that we can enhance tweets.
Yeah,
So,
let's try. Well, this was a tweet, but yeah, it's a
all
very
right,
small.
all right, here we go. Oh, got it.
This might
So,
work better.
oh, there you
There.
go.
So he served as chief of staff to the Department of Defense and deputy assistant to President Trump, deputy director of national intelligence, deputy assistant to the president on the National Security Council, um, the National Security Advisor, the senior counsel for the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, national security prosecutor at the DOJ under Obama, DOJ liaison officer to the Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC, and started out as a public defender where he tried everything from murder to complex financial crimes. So if anybody tries to tell you that he is not qualified, they're idiots. And the best part is he knows where all the bodies are. So I think we all had been begging Trump to make this pick. Now that it's announced, it's just fantastic watching everybody run around screaming like the world is on fire.
Yeah, it's the right call. I mean, we had talked about before that Cash was the guy that if
The
Trump
pick.
if Trump wants to actually within the 4 years he's got try to do real institutional change, you need somebody like him in the FBI, like committed to declassifying, knowing from being on the work he did with Nunez on the on the investigation, the
The
Russian investigation,
Russiagate.
where they
Yep.
worked through all the different parts of the intelligence community that did that, that were like basically we're trying to sabotage Trump. He knows where it's, like you said, he knows where it's all is. He's committed publicly to declassifying Epstein's client list and Diddy's party attendees,
In
which
fact, I think Elon tweeted out this morning that the Epstein list would be available on the 20th.
that is going to be. I don't want to hype it up too much because I'm afraid I'll be disappointed with the people who get outed. But there are an awful lot of celebrities leaving the United States compared to 2016. And the
Yes,
only
actually
difference
following
is
through on their promises.
it's celebrities who have ties to um, Epstein and Diddy. Like for instance, Bill Gates has officially moved, I think, to England. Is that where he's now based out of?
I didn't hear anything on Gates,
Yeah, I think I
but
had seen something where Gates has officially moved his residence, and I'm pretty sure, given that it came up when he got divorced, that he's probably going to be on that list because his ex-wife even mentioned in the divorce proceedings that she was unhappy with some of the relationships he had, including with Jeffrey Epstein. So,
appalled at the amount of time that he spent with Epstein.
yeah, so um, it's craziness. I think I'm here for it. I like the idea of it. We do have to be suspicious after the McConnell Gates, Trump before I mean, Patel is now. This is where something where even more than Matt Gates, Cash Patel doesn't have any questionable Venmo transactions. To use the parlance,
That we know of.
if they go after him, it's purely going to be for protecting institutions because he's got the resume that's as qualified as any of the other guys who's been FBI director.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is the reason for questioning Patel? Because you think he's going to genuinely try to shake up the system over there. And I saw there was a clip, and I'm going to try to find it because I thought I bookmarked it, but maybe I didn't. It was Andy McCabe of being fired by Trump fame as the deputy director of the FBI for leaking things.
Yeah, he had gone within minutes of the announcement, went on CNN or MSNBC and was just throwing a tantrum.
But what's crazy is he was talking about you don't want somebody like that. I'll tell you, the FBI for many years was a tool of the presidency up and through Watergate, and I was like, there was a lot of different presidents who weren't tools. It was Hoover that was the guy running that. He was trying to insinuate that Hoover was like doing all these intelligence and basically blackmail material gathering on everybody in the US, politicians, celebrities, whoever,
Right.
at the orders of different presidents, which is not how it was working. Hoover did those, so he got to stay FBI director for 50 years and do whatever he wanted. That's what the FBI is really like. The FBI has always been a corrupt institution from inception, from jump.
Yeah.
It's always been corrupt. It's when they're like when McCabe goes out there and he's like, well, "Who's going to like if you neuter the FBI, how will we protect us from terrorists and all these other things?" I was like, "When have you done that before?"
Yeah. Everybody's always known to the FBI, but nothing's ever stopped.
Yeah, when is the FBI ever the only stuff the FBI ever stops in advance is stuff they set up like Whitmer.
Right.
Like that's they're batting 1,000 on ones where they were the guys committing the crimes.
Right.
but they seem to whiff every time when it comes to real people committing terror. The Zarniev brothers, known to the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
The the Pulse nightclub shooter,
Nightclub shooter.
known to the FBI. The guy who tried to kill Trump, known to the FBI. Like they're
Pretty
all
sure the Nashville shooter was known to the
known to the
FBI.
FBI. I think the dude in Las Vegas that ended up getting bump stocks banned for until they weren't was known to the FBI. I mean, there's
If not FBI.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's amazing how we memory hold that one, and just we don't ever ask questions about who he worked for, how he was getting paid, and how he had all those guns, how he got them to Las Vegas. Nope,
Yeah,
no, it's gone. It's
kind of
poof.
like 2 assassination attempts. Just no, no reason to
Yeah,
talk about them. Never happened.
his motive
Um,
will never be known.
yeah, I did want to read while you're looking for that from McCabe. I did want to read an excerpt from Bill Barr's 2022 book, and this is when he was talking about Kash Patel possibly becoming the deputy director at the FBI. I categorically opposed making Patel deputy FBI director. I told Mark Meadows it would happen over my dead body. In the first place, all the leadership positions in the Bureau, except the director, have always been FBI agents. They've all gone through the same agent training and have broad experience in the field and at headquarters. Someone with no background as an agent would never be able to command the respect necessary to run the day-to-day operations of the Bureau. Furthermore, Patel had virtually no experience that would qualify him to serve at the highest level of the world's preeminent law enforcement agency. So, coming from Bill Barr, that
But
maybe
no,
the best endorsement I've
no,
ever heard.
but no FBI director has worked as a rank and file agent in the last 30 years.
Right.
Mueller wasn't. They were all district. They were all DOJ assistant U.S. attorneys or
Yeah,
U.S.
that get moved
attorneys.
over into the FBI.
Yeah.
So
So, which
they
is
didn't go through the
exactly,
same training.
yeah, which is Patel's background. He was a U.S. attorney originally. like that, like Free wasn't Christopher. Like, show me on Christopher Wray resume where he was out banging doors and doing field raids with the FBI as a rank and file agent. He wasn't. None of these,
Just
like,
enforcing some no-knock warrants.
yeah, it's I want to. I'm gonna go. Yeah, it's retarded when they make these arguments. Like,
Yeah.
they're trying, and it shows you they're gonna go after them. Oh, got it. Yeah, I finally
Well,
found the clip. It was
and
Charlie.
if your argument is that the FBI perpetually staffs itself, and that's a good thing, not quite. I mean, that's where we've gotten to this point. So,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
great
All right.
endorsement there from Barr.
Yeah, this is the next best endorsement. This is Andy McCabe with his hair on fire
Yeah.
about it. You ready to start?
Yep.
Start first with you and just get your reaction to this news tonight.
Yeah, well, it's a terrible development for the men and women of the FBI and also for the nation that depends on a highly functioning, professional, independent Federal Bureau of Investigation. The fact that Kash Patel is profoundly unqualified for this job is not even like a matter for debate. So I think what we should really be thinking about right now is what does this signal in terms of Donald Trump's intent for the FBI? The installation, or the nomination, I guess we should say at this point, of Kash Patel as FBI director can only possibly be a plan to disrupt, to dismantle, to distract the FBI, and to possibly use it as a tool for the president's political agenda. And, you know, as an organization, we know what that looks like. This country has been there before, right? The pre-Watergate FBI, the J. Edgar Hoover FBI, struck fear in the hearts of Americans across the spectrum of politicians, people in entertainment, people in the civil rights community, because the director operated at the direction of presidents to collect political intelligence.
I'm just stopping it to remind people he never did that at the direction of presidents. J. Edgar Hoover was like FDR was not going, "Hey, Jay, can you get all the materials on the commies for me?" No, they did it themselves and brought, and like when he deemed it necessary, Hoover would share information with those presidents. It was so it's
More often, he was blackmailing the presidents.
correct.
To utilize the legal authorities, the investigative authorities of the FBI to terrorize and intimidate Americans. So the question is that where we're going back to with this nomination? I would argue that Kash Patel would be the perfect person for Donald Trump to nominate if that's in fact his intent for the FBI.
So there's a nice phrase that we like, confession through projection. What he just told you is exactly what the FBI has done since inception, and they're worried that Trump will actually have somebody there who can start reining that in. The idea of an FBI, a law enforcement division to help with crimes that occur across state lines, that's all they were ever supposed to be about, because in the 1920s there were notorious criminals that would cross state lines, and because of the way our system was at the time, it was very difficult for other states to send they couldn't send any of their law enforcement into another state to pursue the criminal fugitive.
Clearly denoted jurisdictions.
Yeah. So the FBI's, and this is how J. Edgar Hoover sold it, the FBI would be there to help with kidnappings where things go across state lines, the Lindbergh baby, They would be able to help with bank robberies where Bonnie and Clyde would rob banks, murder people, go across state lines. John Dillinger, things like that.
Yeah.
And from there, he immediately, this is back when they were just law enforcement, mind you. This is before we passed any intelligence infrastructure. Hoover immediately started using the FBI to wiretap anybody he felt like, develop files on those people, using the broad authorities. This is the reason it's illegal to wiretap people without warrants, is because of the effing FBI, because they got caught doing it so often.
Right.
That they got told, no, you can't just do that. And then, of course, we found a workaround for that, because the way the FBI after 9/11 created an entire intelligence division on steroids, where they are now looking at terrorism, because we all got hopped up on the terrorism issue. And the FBI uses what's called FISA intelligence courts to justify and get basically rubber stamp warrants to be able to do whatever electronic surveillance they want on U.S. citizens, under the auspices that the U.S. citizens have contact with foreign nationals planning terrorism attacks.
Right. So you can monitor anybody, because you could say, well, we thought they might be talking with somebody across the ocean, and they might be planning something.
Yeah,
so then they can listen to everything that they have said on any communications.
Which is, hopefully, I know this is one of my big hopes for Trump when he's there. He will stand firm and not renew the FISA part. It's on another 2-year renewal, I believe.
Yeah, well,
and they need
the way it was used against him, I'm sure he has a little bit of vengeance planned for that act.
The problem is he renewed it previously, but Trump was trying. He was transactional. He thought he could make the deals, and hopefully he's learned that there's no honor with these people. They're not going to honor the deal they say they're making with you. They're going to get their power and then turn around and try to take you out with it.
Well, and a lot more came out after he was out of the presidency, because they thought there was never a chance in hell he was going to go back in. So he knows a lot more about what they were doing at this point. The investigations, kind of course, they run through a whole presidency and then nothing happens. I mean, it's the way all of our DOJ and the FBI work. So, and I think he'll treat it a little bit different this time, but I don't know. We'll see. They've got to make a much better argument to the American people on why it would actually be needed, because at this point, I don't think it is.
They certainly haven't stopped any terrorist attacks using it.
No, they haven't. I mean, the closest thing that we've had to stopping a terrorist attack is finding something in somebody's shoes, and then all of a sudden, we all have to take off our shoes at the airport.
Yeah, the failure theater that is the TSA. I really love when you see the audits of how many times weapons, explosive materials, and other things get through on the official audits and tests that they do. So,
but my lighter gets confiscated half the time. It's ridiculous.
Yep. It's
Nobody likes the TSA.
not to mention, I'm really glad I had to go out and get my real ID and all these other things. And the last time I was at an airport and saw a sign, they had a big thing like, if you're a migrant and don't have paperwork, just come over here. We'll get you on through.
Yeah, we'll just get you through security over here because, yeah. Yeah, Goj and Eric, I don't know on this one. I think we all agree that he should definitely not renew it, but we'll see when the time comes.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed on that one. But he's laying at the very least. We've got Tulsi DNI, Cash FBI, Ratcliffe as CIA. I know some people aren't as good high on Ratcliffe, but I think Ratcliffe did as much as he was pushing for other for some of that stuff, and he got overruled at the other, like, not overruled. He got people, he faced off against like people like Barr and other institutionalists who convinced Trump that to hold off on doing some things like the JFK files and other stuff.
Yeah.
Which that's another one I'm looking forward to. Tell me why 60 plus years later,
It's still something that could damage the FBI and this national security,
which tells you that the
there was involvement, or once again, it was known.
There was a lot of theories about all, everybody has theories on it. But what we do know definitively, Jack Ruby was mobbed up. Jack Ruby took out Oswald to make it a nice, clean package. Allegedly, the FBI was working with mob type people because both of them were wronged by the JFK administration in their minds. Because speaking of stolen elections, the mob delivered the 1960 election to JFK. They it's actually pretty much known definitively that they cheated and got him enough electoral votes to win against Nixon.
Yeah, and Nixon Nixon should have won that election.
And and speaking of false slates of electors, Nixon even won Hawaii, but the JFK people got a second set of electors sent to Congress that was recognized by the Democratic House and became the official electors for him. And nothing happened with that. It was because you could do that, and it was always legal.
But we keep being told that anything like that is completely unprecedented.
Yeah.
So never has happened, never would happen.
Yeah. So
especially not from Democrats.
Nixon was robbed, as Eric points out, and people wanted Nixon to fight it in the court. And Nixon was like, it's not healthy for anybody, so I'm just going to let it be. Because Nixon, more than anything, was anti-communist, and he didn't want to bring that, like, to have the U.S. look like it was having coup d'etats and things like that. So because he knew that would be a problem for facing off against Russia.
Kind of like Trump didn't prosecute Hillary because it was for the good of the country. It's amazing how Republicans seem to have that line of thinking about so many things, but the Democrats never seem to. Yeah, they will get rid of any norm to keep power.
So after the mob delivered that election for JFK, JFK immediately turns around. He appoints his brother, RFK, Robert Kennedy, to Attorney General, and Robert Kennedy decides to make his bones to basically get his reputation by taking down the mob as the Attorney General. And right or wrong, the mob obviously is a criminal organization. They were very unhappy that they delivered something at the orders of his father, who was a bootlegger, and that's where they got all the money as Kennedys. They delivered for him, got his son the presidency, and then they turn around and they're getting prosecuted. So you're a little unhappy when you do that. And then on the other hand, you have the intelligence communities. You have the CIA, who felt like they got hung out to dry with because they, CIA loves fomenting war and doing all sorts of stuff. They were trying to do the counter revolution in Cuba, and JFK got cold feet. And next, the Bay of Pigs happens. Yep. So the CIA is unhappy with him. And then the FBI with J. Edgar Hoover, he had plenty of material on the Kennedys, but he didn't like that RFK was doing things that, there's a lot of stuff that was rankle in him. So the FBI, which by the way, the FBI was knee deep with working with mob people. It was a proud tradition that even Bob Mueller, if you ever watched the movie with Johnny Depp playing Whitey Bulger,
Yeah.
where he was working with a U.S. attorney, where
A lot
Whitey
of
Bulger,
CIs,
yeah,
criminal
where
informants.
so the system Whitey Bulger, terrible Irish mob guy in Boston, used was he would go to the U.S. attorney and cut and inform against the other Irish mobs that he wanted taken out, and the U.S. attorney agreed in exchange for that he would let Whitey Bulger's organization
Run amok.
run amok. And by the way, the supervising U.S. attorney in Boston at the time, Bob Mueller.
Shocking.
So, shocking, right? This is the guy who was supposedly super Boy Scout trustworthy to investigate the president and never did anything wrong. So,
Yep.
all this history is just to point out these government institutions, the fact that they are still doing stuff like not letting JFK's assassination documents come out 60 years later. When the Warren Commission classified them, it was for the express purposes of not disrupting people's faith in government and things like that, because there needed to be a cooling off period before these things could come out. And 60 years later, they're still worried about it. And that's because people right now, after Trump, are more aware than ever about how the intelligence communities run amok domestically. And when they find out that they were knee deep in like assassinating a president, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of credibility they're going to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I think they were trying to wait until most people that were alive at the time were dead before releasing it, because I don't think the generations down the line are going to care as much about that specific incident. But what they're running into is with social media and with, the new us being the media type thing, we're not willing to let things like that go, because even though I wasn't alive when it happened to JFK, I mean, we know enough about it, and we know the corruption that is taking place in our 3-letter agencies, and that's where it's still important to get that information out as quickly as somebody would be willing to, because 60 years, yes, it's been long enough. But it is going to help destroy the 3-letter agencies, I think, and I'm all for it.
That's what I would. Yeah, I would love the idea that that the JFK assassination helps finally put the nail in the coffin of the.
In an administration that includes RFK Jr.
Yeah, because I know RFK Jr. has also expressed a firm belief that the CIA and other people were involved with removing his dad from the picture in '68 as well.
Right.
With using Sirhan.
And to Gojiro's point about Democrats are going to be huge on the norms for the next 4 years, yeah, we've already started seeing that with quite a few senators coming out in support of the filibuster. We were chatting a little bit about it last night. It's not anything I would like to see happen, getting rid of the filibuster, but we were saying it would be kind of funny if the Republicans just kind of took the Democrats at their word that the filibuster is not needed and went ahead and pulled the trigger on that.
Yep.
Be hilarious. Because the Democrats are going to try it at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm of two minds on that one. It's because
the institution needs it.
So
I don't want to see it go away. But if it's just going to go away next time the left gets power, I mean,
the main thing I want is to repeal the direct election of senators. That's what I want.
What I would like to see is state electoral colleges.
Well, that should be
in every state.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Red states fantastic.
Red states need to be implementing that stuff now before things get out of hand. We should also, I'm hoping, because the federal government can't dictate to states how to run their own election, but they can put requirements on federal elections.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that we can get some standard, basically adopting the Florida system in every state, there's no reason we should be able to get ballots counted in the same.
Yeah, there's no
day.
reason
Yeah.
that a whole cabinet has been basically selected and California is still counting votes.
Yeah. So it's
almost a month out.
exactly. And so there's a lot of but there's so much stuff to do. So much stuff.
Yeah. The first 100 days is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
that's why it's so important to get this cabinet in place immediately, right off the bat. Everything hit the ground running. Which I think is part of the reason Gates is not going to be around. Matt Gates.
Yeah, it's Matt Gates was going to draw. He was going to
The
draw
most
too much
scrutiny.
political, and it's a waste of political capital. You have to go through, do this stuff like urgently. I like Matt Gates. I think he would have been good at what Trump needed, but it's not. You got to pick your like which hill are you going to die on? That's not the hill to die on.
Yeah, it wasn't. It would have been great, but it wasn't the hill to die on.
Yeah. So, and there's other things like I'd love to do the switcheroo and have him go take over Truth Social so Nunez can be back and get a job in the administration. I think he's another one who is very invested in, knows where all the stuff is. Like obviously Patel worked for him.
Yeah, directly underneath him as his deputy.
When they were doing that. So it's complicated about who you're going to do. I love the Kash Patel move just because it bothers all the right people.
Yes.
It gets all it's
bothers the right people on both sides, which
if Bill
is
Barr
your
is
uniparty and being shown out. So
I mean, and if the FBI becomes look, it's a federal law enforcement agency. If we start using the FBI to arrest public officials who are impeding like the immigration plans for the mass deportations, I'd love to see like, oh, they're using the FBI as a tool to arrest people. Yeah, really? You didn't have a problem with the FBI raids on Mar-a-Lago. So
yep. Or the classification of Christians as domestic terrorists.
The FBI has been raiding and arresting people who pray in front of abortion clinics. The Biden administration has been using, I think, an 80s or early 90s era law that was designed to stop people from bombing abortion clinics because the wording of the law is so obtuse that basically it says it uses the word
you're not allowed to impede somebody from entering an abortion clinic.
Yeah,
so if you're standing on a sidewalk across the street praying, that's enough reason because you might make somebody think.
Yeah, so number one, Trump, I'm pretty hopeful, and I think it's probably, the FACE Act, probably on his list where he's going to be pardoning a lot of those people. But
I hope so.
Law, I really hope, even though they get pardoned, there is a way to continue appeals of your conviction in the face of pardon. Sometimes the government will try to get your case on appeal thrown out, saying you no longer have standing because you were pardoned.
Right.
But you can still make the argument that you still had a loss, right? You still had some kind of damages, even though you're pardoned now from the conviction that occurred. And so you still want to challenge, like for instance, go to the Supreme
inability
Court.
To work or get a job, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting into
have a gun.
I mean, there's a clear First Amendment issue with someone just praying. Like, there's no physical violence. There's no issue. There's definitely First Amendment ground where they should be overturning these kinds of convictions on that. Now,
yeah, I would say praying is more protected than burning the flag, but
correct,
or at least as protected.
I mean, so when you've got all this kind of stuff going on that you're trying to tackle, making an argument to keep Matt Gaetz as Attorney General when you've got to deal with Venmo money going to like 17-year-old girls, not worth
allegedly.
it. No, those are confirmed.
Yeah, but we're still going to cover our asses here.
Yeah. Matt Gaetz has just said they weren't for what other people are implying they were. There is definite money changing hands. what it was for, I have no idea. There's allegations what it was for. He says that it was just, per the Venmo notes, for being you, and little heart signs and things like that. So good for him. That's what derailed him. It's always, what's funny, it always comes back to financial records. Like, it's tracking the money is what always does you in. I'm really, in fact, hopeful Kash Patel decides to look at some insider trading allegations. I know that's normally SEC territory, but since it's public official corruption, it does fall into the ability for the FBI to investigate and file charges against people for that. Yeah. I know Unusual Whales might have an issue because their whole shtick is being able to show all these giant trades that are going on, so it might do some damage to their ability to make new X content, but I'm sure they'll make that trade.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would still love to be able to just, kind of piggyback on what Pelosi's trades are so that I can someday be rich like her, or at least her husband. But yeah, it would be really nice to get rid of some of the crap going on with Congress and with insider trading news. But I don't know how quickly that's going to be a major priority with all the other crap that we've got to kind of deal with. It is a major thing, but there are some other things that are at the top of the list. Getting rid of other types of corruption throughout the government, at least in my mind. Eric K says he needs to send us something on the Matt thing that explains it all.
Okay.
So yeah. So yeah, I think all in all, that's 40 minutes on Kash Patel and a history lesson. I think we can all agree that one's going to be some fun fireworks to watch through the next week and through the the next 4 years, hopefully.
I feel like Eric Myers, Cash is young. President Vance can keep him. When you get confirmed, you get a 10-year term. That's the standard. Like, it's designed for the
or
FBI
until the next president decides to fire you.
The FBI director is supposed to be above the fray because allegedly they're an independent institution designed just to serve the public, which they never are. But as we've discussed, the president, my point on the unitary executive, the president you serve at the leisure, even if you're supposed to be cross-termed. You can be fired anytime for any reason because you serve at the leisure of the president. So there you go.
So it's going to be fun. Buckle up. What should we go to next? How about this? Zelensky is now signaling that he's okay with giving up a part of Ukraine in order to end the conflict, or at least the hot war.
He's because Biden is sending all that fat cash right before the end of his term, and Zelensky knows he can get out while the getting's good with another fresh $20-30 billion. And why not? That's a lot of money to sit on and just live comfortably.
Well, and part of it too is plans floated by Trump's team is, so basically the front line would be frozen in place right now. Ukraine would not join NATO for at least 20 years, and the U.S. would still provide weapons to deter future Russian aggression, but Russia would keep the land that it has taken. So I don't know.
I don't know about. I don't think that. I think that's a starting point. I still think what ends up happening, is Crimea becomes officially part of Russia. Donbass becomes independent, not owned officially by either side, but ostensibly it would be Russian influenced. And then Ukraine agrees to never join NATO.
I think that's going to be the big sticking point for Putin.
In exchange for security. Like, Putin will let the U.S. make, funding and send equipment and things like that. But what he's going to say is you can't, because the reason I know that that's probably going to be okay with Putin is because that's the deal that was in place in the 90s.
Right.
The 90s deal was Ukraine is independent.
Security agreements with a few of the countries, but not NATO membership. Where, what is it? Article 5
4
or 4?
Yeah.
where Article 4 could trigger.
Yeah, so what they did in the 90s is they allowed, and the deal was the US would provide security guarantees to Ukraine against Russian aggression, but they weren't part of NATO. And the deal in the 90s was so Ukraine would give up their stockpile of nuclear ICBMs
Yep.
because Russia had put so many of them, because Ukraine was the optimum place to put them to attack Europe.
Yeah.
And so when the Soviet Union fell, Ukraine, I think, was actually the third out of, like, in terms of nuclear superpowers. Ukraine was third because of how many they inherited.
Just a sheer number. Yeah.
Yeah. So they crossed England, France, like Germany, all these other countries. They inherited that, so it was a priority of the Clinton administration and actually Yeltsin in Russia. They retained and took control of those warheads back in exchange for letting Ukraine be independent, and US agreed to give the security, because Ukraine, there's a lot of things in the world where if you're a nuclear power, you get better deals. You get more
Obviously.
security. There's a reason why everybody in the Middle East and their mother, who's not Israel, wants to get to the point where they have nuclear weapons. Because once you can do that, you become Kim Jong-un and people take you seriously, even if your country's an asshole.
Yeah, you almost have to get an invite to the table because
Yeah.
you can blow up the table.
Yep. So Ukraine had enough to blow up the entire table a few times over. And they knew that if they give that up, Ukraine is a terrible place to try to defend, because they're, like Russia has shown, there's a large swath of territory you can kind of cross. You have the port areas, you can do that. Now you can get bogged down, but Russia did capture a chunk of it, which is exactly what they knew would happen. And if we're still at a point where if Russia was committing to total war, which they haven't, but if they did, Ukraine would have fallen.
Well, and the thing with Russia has always been they're terrible at offensive wars. But the second it hits their borders, I mean, they are vicious. So this lately Ukraine trying to push into Russian territory, that's not going to do anything good. So
Well,
I mean,
and
that's where
Ukraine
you've got to get the hot war to stop at this point.
And Ukraine doesn't have the manpower to do it now. They've
No.
round up an entire generation now.
Yep. And it's all in the name of making certain people money.
Yep.
I mean, the red line was always that Ukraine was never going to be a part of NATO. And that's where the Biden administration made a huge miscalculation, that Putin wouldn't do anything about them whispering about, well, let's get them into NATO. This will go well.
Yeah. And that's Victoria Nuland and everybody else.
And Kamala Harris.
It's
I mean, they were over there a week before the invasion.
it's because the gravy train was flowing out. Like, it was, Ukrainian money has been influencing American elections for a lot of years. The
Biggest
Vindmans,
laundromat in the world.
I mean, I don't want to disparage anyone who's served, but the Vindmans, those twins,
Yeah.
are of Ukrainian descent and have always been scumbags. And they have always been of the New World Order agenda, not the US agenda. So Ukrainian, like, influence has not been good for American politics. Look at how much money they were paying Hunter Biden from
Burisma. Yeah.
I mean, Hunter Biden's super qualified to be working at a natural gas company making millions of dollars a year, because if you look at his resume, that makes sense.
Oh, definitely.
Just like him being an artist who can sell paintings for hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's another thing, if we want to get the FBI on something, let's start and look into the black market that paintings allow for, with cash being laundered through the art community. It's
Yeah.
it's pretty easy. So that would be a good place to start to get some probably convictions of people in there.
What are we thinking is going to happen with Secret Service? Do you got any guesses? Do you think? I mean, there's still whispers of Bongino, but there's been no official word at all.
I mean, they kept the Kash Patel thing, even though everybody kind of knew it for a while. I think that they waited through, like you said, through Thanksgiving, give everybody a time, and then bam, Kash.
Right.
I think the Secret Service part is less of a priority because they're focused on the other things right now, and I think they know that the rank and file qualified agents are probably good with Trump. The thing
for the most part, I would think so, but I mean there is some major corruption going on over there between the January 6th pipe bomb situation, and Secret Service should have known everything about that at this point. And even the substance found in the White House, there's no chance in hell they don't know who that substance belonged to, and it's being covered up. I mean, Secret Service is covering up things the same way the FBI and the CIA do.
Yeah, the idea that in a shared space, which is where they found that cocaine was, there's not there's going to be cameras everywhere in the White House,
and fingerprints on baggies and some kind of DNA evidence, no matter what. There's no way that wherever that came from, that it was just pure as the driven snow, clean, and not have any evidence of who it might belong to.
Oh, it looks like Kash Patel actually just joined X, so that's funny. I have that.
Elon was like, "Hey, come on in. The water's fine."
Yep.
We're gonna have to interview you on a few podcasts, so you might as well jump in here.
Yeah, so let's see. I don't know. I think the Secret Service it's a lot of work. I mean, but
and Gojiro makes a good point too. You got to clean up the hiring practices and get rid of the DEI crap as soon as possible in Secret Service.
I kind of feel like we're on repeat because the same issue is in the military.
Yeah, I mean it's
everywhere.
It's been the it's been the administration's policy to screw up everything, so now it's all got to be fixed again.
Which is one of the reasons why I think, again, going back to why letting Gates's nomination go was the right call. You've got big issues at every institutional level of government, within every part of government. It used to be, at least you might be able to say, okay, well, at least the military, they might be lacking in resources because their budgets were getting misaligned or cut, but at least their commitment to the mission, their training ethic and things like that were still solid. That's gone now.
Right.
So when you're talking about the military, for instance, when Clinton took over in the 90s, the military was in a pretty solid state as an institution. They just didn't. Clinton just started cutting some of their funding, and that's when we went from the Cold War footing where we had a large standing army, and they started cutting that down. That's when a lot of people here might remember the BRAC Commission, base realignment and closure. Where we started closing lots of military installations and downsizing the military, while at the same time, this is the funniest part, even though Democrat politicians always campaign on being the peaceniks and hippie lovey stuff, Clinton was sending the army and the Marines everywhere to do all sorts of shit.
And every time he had to wag the dog.
Yeah, the reason Black Hawk Down happened because Clinton decided we should be a peacekeeping force in Somalia, which was the bullshit. And it ended badly. Then we got into Kosovo through a NATO action. So we had soldiers in the middle of a internal civil war, which I still don't understand why NATO was involved in that, because no NATO country was
internal politics aren't.
That it was internal civil war with Serbia, with it did make sense. But again, like you said, that happened to coincide with the Starr
Every time
investigation
there was
and
a scandal
Lewinsky.
coming out, anytime there was news, oh, we dropped a bomb somewhere. Look at it. Look over there. I mean, the wag the dog term became popularized during that time. It existed before that, but I mean, everybody became aware of it during the Clinton
They even made
administration.
the movie of it.
Yeah.
because even Hollywood was like, we can't pretend we're not doing this. If we make a movie of it, it'll be controlled and be like, look, it was a movie where you're just making it up.
Yeah,
Robert De Niro was in
this
it.
is fictionalized.
Yeah, it's so that's it's not a it's not a good place. So you've got all this stuff. You got big fires to put up. They're committed. It seems like to Hegseth because they want someone
Yeah.
who's really, really,
Really anti-woke
really
and
anti-woke and
really
wants to run
pro-soldier.
pro-soldier and all that. So I like the idea. Plus, Hegseth's in a better position. We talked about when we went over his nomination. He did some things that are maybe amoral, but he didn't do anything that was illegal. And this woman's story,
Does not check out in any way.
it looks terrible under any layer of scrutiny. And the other thing is, as much as they might lose Collins and Murkowski, there's a lot of those senators who might not like to be on record tanking
as
his
opposing
nomination.
Trump. Yeah.
Well, tanking his nomination based on that set of facts, when I'm sure under scrutiny they may have similar circumstances that
they
could
may
come
be
to
on
light.
certain other lists.
Yeah. So I like that. If I had to pick between the two, I would rather fight for Hegseth than Gates at Attorney General, even though Attorney General is a key cog in trying to reform where things have been gone. I'm hoping Bondi gets the memo and will do that. But Hegseth, the military because the military is going to need to be involved in mass immigration change. Like they're going to have to, like, I think Trump executive order day one, actually not executive order, just declares an invasion. He actually, because he can as president, it's in there. He can basically say we're under the current threat of invasion. It's going
at least
on.
Mobilize the National Guard, because that's been done within the country tons of times. And the rest of the military has been used as support for different agencies at literally tons of times. Even just putting up razor wire at the border. Stuff like that.
I see Southern Bell pointing out, yes, Bondi does have some questionable choices as Attorney General in Florida. Most notably for me was the Zimmerman case, where she brought on as an independent prosecutor and kind of oversaw that. So, but part of that tells me that Bondi follows the order. That was coming down from the governor's office when it happened. So I think it's a double-edged sword, right? Bondi's self-serving politician, but Bondi's record also shows that she follows the boss's orders to do what the self-serving politician that she is needs to do to keep the boss happy. So she's going to be working for Trump this time.
Yeah, I think she'll follow the leader.
And if not, Trump fires her.
Replace her. Trump has no problem firing people. He never has. He had a whole show about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, she gets an opportunity. She's going to fly through confirmation compared to Gates. And then it's on her to do the part that we were hoping she does. But I mean, you can also see this week, Trudeau was down at Mar-a-Lago. Like Trump's tariff statements are already changing policy across the world.
Yeah, with a month to go. Oh, well, almost 2 months to go. Other nations are just bending to his will before he's doing anything. Even most of this country is starting to bend to his will before he's actually got the power to do anything.
To Texas Sheep Lady's comment that I thought the razor wire has been ruled against. That was when the Biden administration had said they told Texas to take it down, and the federal courts found, as they have consistently, that immigration is the auspices of the federal government, so the federal government has control over that. It's not that you can't use razor wire. It's that the federal government would have to okay the use of the razor wire as the people who control immigration policy.
Well, and I thought there was a ruling this week that basically ruled in favor of Texas.
It's a very complicated.
Just in the last week, yeah.
I still go on the
basically saying that they can do it.
The prevailing, they'd have to do it within Texas. It's complicated,
right?
If you're doing, you have to basically word it in a way where you're not saying you're doing it because of immigration. Because if you, this came up because of everybody might remember Arizona around 2010.
So say you're doing it for fighting the drug war.
You have, because that's the thing. The Supreme Court ruled when Arizona started, famously, like they were going to allow local law enforcement to check immigration status of people like they pulled over.
Mm-hmm.
And the Supreme Court said, it made it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they said, no bueno, no good. The federal government is in charge of immigration status. Local law enforcement can assist the federal government. Like if you arrest somebody, when ICE has the policy of like you check for detainers when you arrest somebody and then you turn them over to ICE, A-okay. What you can't do as a local, state, or county government is be the immigration officer for the federal government. You can't unilaterally do that outside of some, like, as long as you, it was a weird decision where basically as long as you had other reasons to arrest someone, you could check on that if you were a partner in the federal government's programs. This is why the Obama administration, one of the first things they did was scale back the partnership programs so that the ability of local law enforcement to check for detainers became harder. Because if the government, it was allowed, like if you say someone was a drunk driver, comes up a lot with illegal immigration.
Yeah.
If they're arrested for drunk driving, get in an accident, this was under the George W. Bush policies, they would constantly get checked for ICE detainers, and ICE would basically authorize local police departments to hold people
until ICE could take custody of them to deport.
Yeah.
And that's where the sanctuary crap has come from.
Yeah.
They just don't detain them. In some cases, you've even had mayors or governors say, yep, ICE is planning on doing a major act, in this city tomorrow. So be prepared and, do what you need to not be caught.
Yeah. So what Tina was with the feds can't destroy razor wire Texas installed near the border. Like Greg Abbott, a former Texas attorney general, they tweaked their policies and their setup so that it's
to skirt
within the letter of what was allowed. But what Texas learned is you can't say that everybody knows what they're doing it for. But if Texas is like, look, there's a lot of people putting they're crossing the Rio Grande and it's dangerous to cross the Rio Grande. So we're putting this razor wire up
for safety reasons
to keep people from swimming in the Rio Grande from the Texas side.
Yeah.
Because, it's a barrier. It's like putting, barbed wire fences up around a government installation to protect them.
Listen, if we can shut down every major beach during COVID because it's unsafe to be on the beach, then I think we can deal with the beach on the river this way.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Holman's going to be great, though, when he gets in. I mean, he's already signaled that he's going to destroy every sanctuary thought that they've got.
Well, the easiest way not the easiest, but the number one way if you want to stop illegal immigration cold, in addition to security at the border site, is to start, as soon as they start doing employer raids and put some of those mid-level managers in jail for hiring people who are illegal.
Yeah.
That shit is going to stop immediately. Because I know when I hired people, I would have to do what's called an I-9 form. It's been required for a long, long time.
Yep.
That verified that a person was legally allowed to work in the United States. And there's all over the place. There's people just doing that. Construction. That was this is going to gut our construction industry. It's going to cause labor costs to go up. Yeah, because they'll have to pay Americans the prevailing American wage to do it. And they're like, well, that'll raise housing. No, it won't, because then all of a sudden there won't be as much demand for it when we're not importing millions of people a month into the United States.
Yeah, when you've got 30 million people needing housing because you're just allowing them to come into the country, that creates more demand, which creates a spike in the supply and the cost. So, yeah, you cut out 30 million people coming in illegally or deport those 30 million people. There's a lot more housing available all of a sudden.
And that's why the president of Mexico got her ass chewed out and changed her tune really fast, because I think I'd read an article that roughly 50 to 60% of the GDP of Mexico comes from direct trade with the United States or cash remittances coming from the United States to Mexico.
Yeah.
So cash remittances is the other side of this. That's where, someone goes to Western Union and sends money down to Mexico from the US.
Yeah.
So Trump,
where you're working here and sending all the money back to Mexico to benefit them, not our economy.
Yeah. So Trump had publicly talked about the tariffs, but allegedly privately, like when he had the call with the Mexican president, also brought up that maybe we'll make it so that there's a 50% fee on cash remittances from the United States to Mexico, and that would just tank like all this stuff.
He just floats ideas that are in his head, and maybe we'll try this.
And suddenly you get
strikes fear
from these people, because Trump is the first president in my lifetime. I mean, maybe Reagan sort of used it when he was confronting the Cold War, where he knew that the United States could outproduce Russia and drive them into problems from doing it. Trump realizes that the power of the United States, the number one power, isn't the fact that we have the biggest, best military. It's our economy.
It's the dollar.
The entire world wants in our market. Our market finances the United States, China, and Europe.
Which is where last week, there was also the report that Trump is basically telling BRICS, if you try to do anything to the dollar and the petroleum, we're just going to put 100% tariff on everything from all of your countries. So after Biden basically never addressed anything about the BRICS situation or the petroleum dollar, Trump's immediately jumping all over that because it's important. It is our economy.
You better believe Saudi Arabia, now knowing that Trump's back in office, where he is 100% willing to pump, as he calls it, that liquid gold right out of the ground. So much liquid gold. That
we start exporting again, and Saudi Arabia is in trouble.
And here's the thing.
So is OPEC.
Yeah, and if Saudi Arabia is like, no, we're going to trade with what we want, and Trump's like, fine, there's a 100% tariff on Saudi oil, but we're not going to be hurt because we can produce enough for ourselves.
Because we don't have to buy it.
Yep. So this is the other thing. If he finishes Keystone, Canada, because Trudeau needs money and he's a little bitch, is going to be A-okay with sending that Canadian oil right down all that pipeline.
Which is why Castro Jr. was at Mar-a-Lago a couple nights ago. Come and kiss the ring.
Yeah, to what Davina is saying, America has been in an economic war since the 90s. When China came in, bought off the Clinton administration, and followed it up right up into the W. Bush administration to get that most favored nation status, and they've been waging economic war on the United States slowly and efficiently to destroy our remaining manufacturing and also control become the number one importer. And by the reason they do that isn't just the money, it's that if you send materials and build a factory in China, they make it so they have a right to the intellectual property that you use, and they knock it off. They make knockoff products of it immediately. Like
everything.
Boeing went over there and started making planes, and all of a sudden they're like, wow, it's amazing how China has an internal national airplane manufacturer that suddenly started making planes that looked
Planes much in
just
the
like
style of
Boeing.
Boeing.
Like, how did we had said when previously Boeing was like, their airplane industry is 40 years behind us. It'll be like 40 years till they can build their own. No, they just waited. You brought your manufacturing over, and they just took the stuff right out of your mainframe
Yeah.
and started building it themselves.
China has no problem stealing any technology or information.
Nope. So that's why I think Trump has the right idea. Let the panda be mad over there.
Yeah.
Let use the economic leverage of the United States to our advantage. Reshore manufacturing. We need to get control of our ports again. All our key nodes and infrastructure need to be in American hands. We should hopefully whoever is going to takes over the Department of Agriculture, if when they get confirmed, starts putting in some policies. I think Trump should do an emergency order saying that it's a national security issue, and therefore no foreign national or foreign national company can own U.S. farmland.
Correct.
That needs to be immediately done, because China actually owns the pork market in the United States. It's pretty much run by China now. And you're like, why would China corner this market on pork? Because pork's pretty popular in China. It's as a meat, so they like to make sure they control it. They are
It's
setting
pretty
this up
popular here too.
Yep. It's all the stuff we should have done and should be doing. And I liked the idea that Trump is at least leaning and publicly making the statements that he's going to go do these things, go even further than he did last time, and protect the American worker.
Yes. It will be a nice change. Hopefully it all actually gets implemented. I mean, I thought about subjecting you guys all to watching Kamala Harris's little, whatever Zoom call that was to her supporters from last week, but I think most people have already seen it. So we'll not subject you to
Are
that.
you stealing her power?
Yeah.
Don't.
I mean, that's the actual clip that I had was the don't let anybody take your power.
She sounds like a drunk wine mom watching Oprah in the 90s.
Yeah. Every single comment under the video, and it was posted by the Democrats, checkmark, was she looks drunk. She sounds drunk. How drunk is she? She's extremely drunk. And remember, this is still the acting vice president of the United States. I love that this is what the Democrats think that they're putting out to show strength is, still the president and vice president, but we're just going to show her completely sloshed and allow that to go through and have everybody see it. They do not care about our appearance on the world stage at all.
No, I mean, we've got a president who non-compos mentis. God knows what is going on in that brain. There was I think the clip where he just started rambling on Air Force One about topics that weren't even going on. Where he's just talking about like a shooting, and people are like, where was there a shooting? What are we doing?
Yep. Kremlin just re-upped his membership. Thank you, sir.
It's
So, we won't make you watch the video because I think we've all had enough of Kamala, and I believe that chat agrees on that.
the real I mean, I'm pretty happy that Putin has not been taking the bait in Ukraine too. That because the one thing the Biden administration seems to be firing all cylinders about right now is sending more money, materials, weapons to Ukraine to try to pop this off before they leave.
Right.
And it's nice that
Putin at least is level-headed enough to know not to start actually attacking any NATO countries that might force us to be completely involved. So, Pinochet said, "Who chose to post that?" I think. Well, I mean, the post came from the Democrat official account. the Democrat Party official account, I believe. And I'm pretty sure most of the staff was saying this is a horrible idea. And Kamala basically did her usual, I'm a diva. I'm going to do this because I want to.
Now, the fun part is Kamala delusional enough
To try to run again in 4 years?
Run again in 4 years.
Yes. Because they believe that, she only had 107 days. That wasn't a fair race. I welcome them trying to run her again. Even mega donors on the Democrat side have said there is not a chance in hell that she gets any money from anybody after she spent close to $2 billion in 107 days and was still in debt.
I mean,
so the mega donors are out on her.
Ladies be shopping, ladies be shopping.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from the call me daddy or call her daddy, whatever the stupid podcast is, where they literally spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to recreate the set rather than going to the set, to everything else, spending $10 million here on some celebrity, $3 million there. They gave Oprah many millions of dollars.
I can't
for
wait
what?
for her to not win a single primary again.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
The 28 primary is going to probably have at least a dozen to 16 Democrats running.
Yeah, it'll be much like the first one with Trump, where we ran 17 that year.
Because we've got the known quantities. We know Shapiro's going to run. We know Whitmer's going to run. We know Newsom's going to run.
AOC's floating her name, and that would be glorious too.
AOC, at this point, I think it's fair to say Kamala's going to run. So we're already up to 5. And in addition to that, I'm pretty sure Bashir is probably going to make a run for it, being the moderate Democrat in the group. Trying to say, look, I was a Southern governor in Kentucky, and so I can win nationally.
Yeah.
And he may not be wrong about probably having the best chance out of that group as a Democrat, but they're going to roast him, so it won't be. I think Buttigieg is going to run.
Yes.
Because he already did before, and now he's
the highly qualified Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah. I look forward to talking about the massive 2 charging stations he built with $7.5 billion spent.
Yeah, and he was out there trying to defend that last week.
Eric, don't be fooled by AOC's large chest. She doesn't have the national capability of winning. I know it was the meme with the Thomas Sowell. Watch out for those socialist boobs.
Socialist titties.
Yeah, but they're gonna try to hypnotize you. But she'll be. She's not she won't play well nationally. Like AOC works.
She's more progressive than almost any of the other people, except for maybe Kamala Harris.
Yeah, so I would. No, Manchin's going to be too old by then. He's already he would have been running this last one if he was planning on doing it. AOC is New York and California should be. If I'm the Democratic Party, I immediately would say no, thank you to anyone running from New York or California. You're not going to do well. You're actually setting up another national loss. We need someone. If they were smart, they're going to try to move. I'll tell you right now, if Sponberger wins in Virginia, she'll be one of the people running for governor in 28. I mean, running for president in 28. Because they'll look at her. She's former CIA. She's a woman, but she's going to say that she's more, moderate, even though she voted with them every single time. That's the type of person that is going to be getting floated. Now, AOC is big enough that she's still going to be able to run her own campaign if she wants to. But she'll just be doing.
She'll run a social media campaign, is what she'll do.
Yeah.
I mean, AOC is one of the few Democrats that is actually smart enough that she knows that social media is the key to a lot of things at this point.
I mean, allegedly, your Colorado governor is interested in running in 28. Was it Paulus?
Paulus, yeah. He's a moron.
He's like a Tim Walz and a half, like flamboyantly theater kid gay kind of dude.
Well, he is actually gay. I do think Tim Walz probably is too, but Polis is actually out and gay. We have a first gentleman here. AOC won over Alex Stein. She can win others. The big booty Latina, AOC.
Yes, Slender. Unfortunately, AOC is old enough to run for president. She's she's hit the 35 mark, I believe, or at least will definitely be by 28. She's been in
Yeah.
Congress now, what, since 18? Was that when she went in?
Yeah, it's been at least 3 cycles, I think.
Yeah. Trying to. All right, who else do we have to in government? Yeah, so we've covered. I think we're at like 8 or 9, and there's going to be more people between now and then. There's probably going to be at least one senator that thinks that they can do it.
Yep.
There might be 1 or 2 congressmen.
Couple other
that think they can do
congressmen.
it.
And then maybe somebody from the Young Turks who likes horses.
I wouldn't doubt Prisker. He's got $1 billion. His family is worth billions. They're knee deep in stuff. Prisker has ambition, so I wouldn't be surprised if he runs too out of Illinois. He'd be the Chris Christie of the Democrat primary,
Right?
Because he's big old fat guy.
Yeah, Kremlin, we mentioned Shapiro already. He's definitely in the running.
Yeah, Shapiro's a guarantee.
Shapiro's the one.
Whitmer, yeah.
Shapiro's the only person that's polling anywhere near Harris at the moment. I mean, they'll end up throwing Harris completely away within a few months, but they're still going to pretend that she has a chance of running in 4 years. I don't think there's any chance in hell she gets even a single electoral, or not electoral vote, caucus vote. But yeah, we'll definitely see Shapiro, Whitmer, and Newsom.
I'll tell you what I need. I need a poll of Iowa from Ann Seltzer to tell me who's in the lead.
Yeah,
because I'll 100% trustworthy is her polling in Iowa. So I mean, she's the gold standard after all, and she wouldn't miss by 14 points.
Eric, I do find that more likely that she tries to run for California governor. And I also think that could be where you finally see everybody in California go, hell no. Because there's been some shift going on in California. People are not happy about the way things are being run.
I mean, they passed that the ballot proposition to actually make crime be enforced again, like laws against crime be enforced to mandate it.
And you've got a lot of celebrities and other types of people like Jillian Michaels coming out and basically saying, yeah, whatever this Newsom crap is that we're doing, it doesn't work. You've got a lot of people with loud voices that are really standing up against what's been going on in California now. Don't know that it'll be enough. And a lot of them actually just move out of the state because they can and because the state's crap. But I don't know. You could start seeing some shifts there.
Newsom's not term limited, right?
I don't know what California rules are on it. I don't know if they have term limits on the governor. But yeah, Nick says a large portion of California is actually conservative. Yes, and that's why a state electoral college would be fantastic in every state. We're coming close to the end of our time. Did want to touch on, don't have to talk about it much, but Peanut the Squirrel's owners are suing the state of New York. So they've now filed notice stating their intention to make a claim against the New York government for unlawful search and seizure, violation of freedom of speech, and they're suing for emotional distress, violations of constitutional rights, as well as lost wages. So Peanut is still in the zeitgeist here.
In death, he has a name.
Yes.
I'm telling you, man, a Squirrel Fight Club movie AI adaptation is something I think I need.
Maybe you should make it then.
I mean, I'll see if Gronk can do that kind of stuff, but man, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Fight Club is super relevant, more than ever. More than ever. Peanut and Fred, they changed the world. They they made the Holy Trinity with Harambe and created the Triforce that allowed Trump to waltz in. I'm sure the Large Hadron Collider was probably turned on too. All sorts of stuff.
Guess we got to switch over to our other background, huh?
It's like look to me on the third day. Peanut the White shall return. It'll be like, your name is Peanut, and he's like, yes, that was what they called me, wasn't it?
Right.
Oh, that's right, meme makers. Peanut as Gandalf the White. Go run with it. If it hasn't already been done.
I think it's already been done a few times.
There.
But the only clip I wanted to show today was actually from the new show, The Landman. I think a lot of people probably already saw it, but it is just a fantastic, little scene from that show with Billy Bob Thornton explaining how green energy is all a racket. So we'll kind of close out with this. We'll still do, some outros and stuff, but I did want to play this in case you haven't seen this show yet. Fantastic show so far. And hopefully we've got the volume turned up to the right level.
Burn to mix that much concrete or make that steel and haul this shit out here and put it together with a 450.
Well, this won't spoil anything, Nick.
Guess how much oil it takes to lubricate
Oh,
that fucking thing?
It didn't transition again.
Nope, not on screen. There
yeah, but this won't spoil anything. It's just like a minute.
Have any idea how much diesel they have to burn to mix that much concrete or make that steel and haul this shit out here and put it together with a 450-foot crane? You want to guess how much oil it takes to lubricate that fucking thing or winterize it? And its 20-year lifespan, it won't offset the carbon footprint of making it. And don't get me started on solar panels and the lithium in your Tesla battery. And never mind the fact that if the whole world decided to go electric tomorrow, we don't have the transmission lines to get the electricity to the cities. It'd take 30 years if we started tomorrow. And unfortunately for your grandkids, we have a 120-year petroleum-based infrastructure. Our whole lives depend on it. And hell, it's in everything. That road we came in on, the wheels on every car ever made, including yours, it's in tennis rackets and lipstick and refrigerators and antihistamines, pretty much anything plastic, your cell phone case, artificial heart valves, any kind of clothing that's not made with animal or plant fibers, soap, fucking hand lotion, garbage bags, fishing boats, you name it. Every fucking thing. And you know what the kicker is? We're going to run out of it before we find its replacement.
It's the thing that's going to kill us all as a species.
No, the thing that's going to kill us all is running out before we find an alternative. And believe me, if Exxon thought them fucking things right there were the future, they'd be putting them all over the goddamn place. Getting oil out of the...
All right. I think that's enough of it, but yeah, you get the point. Good show. Another Taylor Sheridan success so far. I would recommend it. I know some people said that they are going to wait till the whole season's out, but yeah, definitely some things to think about there, and a lot of stuff that we've been saying for years, and finally it's getting out there because of, writers like Taylor Sheridan and the guys he hires. So did want to call attention to that, since we, this is our political show, but we are in the sphere where we talk about a lot of pop culture and entertainment, not just calling attention to good shows as well as the bad. So, Chad, what do you got coming up this week?
We're gonna be hanging out playing games on Tuesday. Some kind of games, not sure which, but gaming on Tuesday. And then Friday, gonna do the Ascendant Art podcast, 9 p.m. Eastern, like we've been doing. Hopefully the Dune episode won't be so terrible I don't even want to talk about it, because we've been covering Dune and it's been getting worse. And I didn't see if there was a movie being released this week. Maybe have a review if a new movie's coming out, because I don't really feel like going to see Wicked.
No.
And talking about that.
I will not see that.
And Moana 2, no, doesn't really do much for me. Yeah. Oh, Y2K. Actually, I might go see that. It's a comedy about 19. Yeah, that could work. Anyway, so that's what we got. 9 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube, Rumble, and it's a Ascendant Art podcast. Slender's my co-host there. Brahma's the regular producer of the show, sort of guy.
Producer in name only. I just show up and talk.
Yeah. We usually have Imp there who will talk about things when it suits him. And I can pretty much say that I'm with confidence Mad will probably not be here by Friday next week. So
yeah, I'm not taking that bet again.
We lost on last week, but I'm pretty confident. Like if I do the parlay, I'll break even.
Right.
Oh, Craven. Eric says Craven's next week. So yeah, another Spider-Man list spinoff is probably what I'll go see and discuss because they had to make another one of those.
Yep. So fun. Actually, I did like Venom 3, but Venom has been a different animal than the other ones that they've been spinning off. So, yeah, what do we got? I may be on Culture Casino's show tonight if he has it.
Oh, is he going to do another Sunday show?
Supposedly. I mean, he's been dealing with seasonal allergy migraines, so that's why he's been a little bit off and on. But I think he was planning on doing it tonight since he didn't do it last week. Monday night we're over on Comics Division's channel. Tuesday, like you said, we got the game stream. Wednesday, I think we've got a Christian panel this week, and I think we're doing Bonhoeffer. So reviewing that movie, which is another one you could look into, Chad, if you wanted it. It's already been out a week or two, but I haven't heard many people talking about it. Thursday, back on comics. Friday, Ascendant Art. And Saturday, I do Bourbon and Boarding. And then we're back here for Sunday mornings. So I'm not going to do an intro as an outro because we keep getting hit for the new intro by the UFC. So I'm going to have to redo the intro again. But I will try to find some stuff to throw together for the intro that won't get us in trouble every single week. Hope everybody has a great week. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Get ready for some Merry Christmas because we're done with the Happy Holidays crap. We're going Merry Christmas again. The change is here. All right. We will catch you all next week, if not on any of those other streams.
All right. Bye, chat.
Cheers. God bless. Take care.